beach formation. How do we get long stretches of beach made of sand? Made of sand. And sand is a what? What is it? That's a sediment. It's a type of sediment. Well, here's where it begins. It begins inland in most cases. It begins inland. And it starts with rock. Now, this rock was collected from a mountain in New Hampshire. All right? The mountain is made of this type of rock. This by itself is a piece of sediment. Okay? A rather big piece. It's a chunk that's come off the mountain. All right? It's broken off. Now, how do we break down rock in order to get sediment? Well, take a look at what I have here. This was collected. This is not sediment that made it to the ocean. This is sediment that was around the mountain. It was collected in little places. We have some big pieces. You can see it came from here. We have some big pieces, and we have a lot of little pieces as well. We have all different sizes. But how do we get these pieces from the rock? There's a lot of ways. All right? This isn't about water wearing away the rock. It's not what happens. If you've taken a dish, like a baking dish or something, and you've made a meal in it, and it's all really dirty, and the stuff is all burned to the plate and everything, you're not ready to wash it yet. What do you do to it? You let it maybe sit in the sink in water and soak, right? So what does water eventually do to that material? Yeah, it breaks it down, starts to dissolve things. So inside rocks, there are chemicals that kind of hold this together. And with the rock, what can happen is water can work its way in and kind of start to dissolve things a little bit, weakening the matrix here, weakening the rock, so it can break apart pretty easily. Okay? And what ends up happening, though, all right, is rocks move, rocks shift. It's all about gravity. Gravity causes rocks to fall. And when they fall, they hit things. And look at, I'm even getting, even on this board here, I'm getting pieces of what? Sediment. Watch this. Let me come over to the black table. You got it here? Got it here, Ashley? Yeah. Right here. Watch it. Watch. We'll see it on the black table here. All right. I'll drop the rock. Watch what happens. I get what? Sediment. I get sediment. So when rocks fall and they break off, and look, it's weakening the rock now, I'm getting all kinds of sediment. And rocks hit each other, and they collide and bang into each other, and we get all kinds of pieces of sediment. All right? So rocks can break down, and it takes a long time to get a lot of sediment like this. The other thing that happens is temperature. The sun hits it, and it causes the rock to get heated, and it expands. And when it gets cold, what happens to the rock? It contracts. It contracts and expands. That weakens rocks too, and that causes things to help break down. At the end of the day, or at the end of many thousands of years, we get rocks broken down into a lot of little fragments called sediment. Of course, we're not at the beach yet. We're looking to form a beach out of sand. So what I've done here is we're going to sort this out a little bit so we can understand the sediment a little bit better by size. And what we have is a series of screens that we're going to run the rock through. We have large screens with a large mesh size like this, and then it continually gets finer and finer and finer and finer, smaller mesh size, to the point where the openings in this mesh are basically microscopic. You can't even see it. Are you with me so far? Everybody with me? All right, so I'm going to stack them up where I have the bigger mesh size on top of the finer mesh size in the proper order. And then what I'm going to do is take this sediment that was around the mountain, which was made of this type of rock mainly. Just going to pour it through the sorter. This. So I have, in the first tray, I have large chunks of sediment, which we call what?
Gravel.
Gravel, good. And then, not so loud now, is it? You should be playing music for this. And then, come on, baby. Come apart. Easy, baby. Easy, easy. All right? And then what we have are some pretty large chunks too, which we call fine gravel. So we have coarse gravel, fine gravel. Now, you can see what's beginning to happen. We're sorting out this sediment according to what? The size of the grains. And in this particular grouping, I have what's called sand. This is categorized as sand. This is coarse sand, and this is fine sand right here. Even this, in this dish here, I have some pretty fine sand as well. But then there's this dish. At the very end, after passing through the finest of mesh, I get this very fine material. It's so fine I can't feel any grit to it. What is this? Silt and clay. Clay being the finest of all. And this is the sorting through the screens. But does this get sorted out in nature? And the answer to that is yes. All right? So, how does it get sorted out on the way to the beach? Chloe.
So on its way down the river or the stream, the bigger rocks or the bigger gravel will get stuck in the stream because it's too heavy to keep moving.
So that sorts out these guys. That leaves us with sand and silt.
And
So this is on its way to the ocean, correct? Okay, keep going.
And then the sand, it gets deposited on the beach because it can't go any farther, so it gets deposited on the beach. And then the fine clay and silt.
So now we've sorted the sand out of the mix, right? Because it's got deposited along the beach, and then what happens to this?
And then that goes
silt
out
and clay?
it goes out to sea.
And why doesn't this get deposited?
Because it's too light, it'll mix in with the
It's just too light. And that's how it gets sorted out, leaving us with what material to form beaches?
sand.
Beautiful. All right? Gravel got left behind. The sand made it to the shore, but it wasn't carried out to sea because it was too big. And then we have the silt and clay, which is so light it just gets washed out to sea and carried out to sea. So this is too small, this is too big, but sand is just Goldilocks. That's the answer. Okay? That's why beaches are made of sand for the most part. Any questions so far? No? Good. All right, Marley. Ashley.